Okay, hi Penny. How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Good. Okay. Today we're going to be talking about water, and when we heat water and cool water, what happens to those little particles in the water?
Okay.
Okay. Now we spoke about particles in the last lesson. You remember?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, we'll just run through it quickly again, so I'm sure you understand what the particles are all about.
Okay.
Okay. Well, remember in the last lesson, if you want to turn that upside down, see if we can make a castle again. Do you remember we made a little house out of little blocks?
Yes.
And then we made the sand castle coming out? No? Oh, there you go. Some of the particles weren't wet enough, but can you see there our little sand castle?
Yeah.
And then you can see here that it's made up of all these little particles of sand.
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Well, that was one of the things we did last time. And then last night I made a little rock out of salt. Can you see it's a little rock in there?
Yep.
Okay. Now if you tip that up and crunch it up. Okay, see the little rock there? Now if you push that down and it crush it up, see all the little particles? Remember we looked under a magnifying glass at all the little particles?
Yes.
So, okay, there's one more thing just to check to make sure you understand what particles are. And this is some sugar that I put in the cap last night to make for you. Oh, it didn't work that well. But if you push that down and break it up, see you're breaking it up into those little particles. Okay?
Yeah, I see those.
So, you understand that everything is made of little particles.
Yes.
And some of those particles are so small we can't see them with just our eyes. Because we looked under some of these with magnifying glasses and we could see a lot more detail in the particles, couldn't we?
Yeah, we could.
Okay. So, Penny, do you think liquids are made of particles? Remember I said everything's made of particles, so do you think liquids are made of particles?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Well, in this can, there's some liquid.
Okay.
So if you look up into the air, and I'll just squirt that, can you see the little particles coming out?
Yes.
Okay. But remember, some particles are so small we can't see them.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll have a look at this PowerPoint that I've made, and we'll see what happens to the particles that are in water when we heat the water and when we cool the water.
Okay.
Okay. So, here we go. I'll read this for you. Okay. Water is not always in a liquid form. Water is poured into a bottle. Can you see I'm at the sink there pouring it into a bottle?
Yes.
Okay, and here we go. It's filled to the very top and placed into the freezer. What do you think has happened to the water? This is after it's been in the freezer for a while.
Yeah.
Do you think that water's still a liquid?
No.
Do you think we could pour that bottle and the water would come out?
No.
No, because it's turned to what?
Ice.
Ice. Good. Can you see it's actually coming out of the top there?
Yeah.
Okay. The water has frozen and turned into ice. Good. Water is placed into a saucepan. Have you ever helped Mum at home cooking?
Yes, I have.
And you put water into the saucepan?
Yes.
Well, where's the saucepan going to go? Can you tell
On
me
the
what?
stove?
It's going on the stove, that's right. And what's going to happen to the water?
It will get really hot.
It's placed onto the stove. The stove's turned on. What is happening to the water? You can't quite see it there, but
No.
maybe there and there you can see a few little
Bubbles.
Bubbles, yes. And see this coming off there?
Yeah. And steam.
Steam, yes. So the water is actually turning into a gas and escaping from the saucepan.
Okay.
Okay? The water begins bubbling and boiling. The water has boiled, making steam. Okay?
Okay.
And that's very hot, isn't it?
Yes.
So you wouldn't touch that, would you?
No.
So, water in its frozen form as a liquid and boiling. Can you see in here,
Yeah.
in this glass here, all the little particles have come together
Yes.
because it's cold? So when it's cold in front of the TV at home, all the family gets together on the lounge and puts a blanket over them and stays together
Yeah.
to keep. Okay, so that's the ice.
Okay.
And this one's just when it's in the room by itself, nothing's happening. And this is when it's boiling. Can you see those little particles? They're all jumping around.
Yeah.
Can you see these little lines here?
Yes.
So when it's cold, is it moving very much, those little particles?
No.
No, it's just a little bit. And then there it is normal.
Yes.
And then what's happening here when it's boiling and heated up?
They're moving a lot.
They're jumping around quite a lot. And they're jumping around so much, they actually start to escape as
Steam.
steam. That's it. Okay. I'll take this here.
Okay.
Pretend that this bag is the glass.
Okay.
And then when you look in there, can you see the lollies in there?
Yes.
They're round like the little particles.
Okay.
So you show me what those particles would look like at room temperature when it's just normal. Yeah, that's a good attempt. But see, when the water's in the glass, it takes up the whole bag or the whole glass. So it's just sitting around. Okay, so none of those would be touching. Now, are they moving?
A little bit.
Just a little bit, just a little bit. Can't even notice it. Okay, show me what would happen if this was the glass and these are the particles of water.
Okay.
What would happen if it was frozen?
Frozen.
That's right, all the little particles would come together. And would they be moving around?
No.
They'd be moving,
Not very much.
but not very much. Not compared to when it's just sitting there.
Okay.
So the particles would slow down and then they'd come together. And what would we call that? If this was a glass and that was particles of water, it's turned into?
Ice.
Ice. Good girl. Okay. So now we're taking the ice and we're putting it in a saucepan
Okay.
and then we're putting it on the stove. So what will happen to all those little particles?
They'll move.
They'll move around. Can you show me, please? Show me what it would look like. Yes, they've spread out everywhere, all through that glass.
Yeah.
And some would even,
Come out the top.
they'd jump out the top, they'd escape, those little particles, because they're so tiny. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, we'll move on. I've got some coloured food dyes here. You can have those lollies for later.
Thank you.
And then I've got some water.
Okay.
So how will I show you, how will I prove to you that those little particles are moving around? What I'm going to do is I'm going to get a glass of really hot water,
Okay.
and I'll have the hot water, and then I'll get a a glass of really, really cold water, which you can use,
Okay.
and we'll put in some drops of the food dye. One's red and one's blue.
Okay.
And what will happen to your glass with the really, really cold water? Do you think it'll mix around quickly? Do you think the colours will mix together?
No.
What do you think will happen?
I think it will just stay where you.
You think
Yeah,
it'll just
put
stay where we put the drops?
Yeah.
Okay, and then I've got the glass of really, really hot water, and I put my 2 drops in of different colours. Do you think they'll mix together? Do you
Yes.
think they'll fill up the whole glass with colour?
Yes, I do.
Why do you think that?
Because the particles are all moving around in the hot water.
And the colours will
And it
move
make
around
the
with it.
colours move around.
Okay, well, that'll be the experiment that we do. We'll just tidy up here and then we'll do that
Okay.
experiment. Good girl, thank you.